Hold on.
What?
Our day is not over just yet.
Woohoo! USA! USA!
We have an action-packed hour for you 6 p.m. drivers.
Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Matt Skraby wraps up a full day of live and local sports talk.
And that is the whole problem with aliens. You just can't trust them. Occasionally you meet a nice one, but usually they turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for June 12th, 2025. Thank you for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the roundtable replay. I felt some FOMO because I was listening to it and I actually just sat back in my chair for a little bit and just listened to the roundtable. And I definitely had some opinions that could have been shared on the roundtable, but I couldn't make it this morning. I'll be back the next roundtable, but always happy to hear the roundtable before my Skraby Show because it gets me fired up. It gets me ready to go. And we got some stuff to talk about tonight. Obviously, we have a lot going on from yesterday and what happened with the final game of the series against the Dodgers. I have one last little thing that kind of maybe perturbed me a little bit. Not made me angry or anything like that. Just perturbed me, and I'll bring that up. Plus, trade targets are pretty clear right now, so we're going to go through some of that. And some of those articles are coming out now of who's going to be traded, what teams are going to be in on the trade predictions, all that stuff. So I went through a bunch of those last night and this morning. And I have a little bit more of an understanding of what's going on with the trade deadline that's coming up in, I would say, more than a month, maybe 6 weeks or so. Also, I heard Jesse and Tony talking about this when Dylan Cease started the other night during the game. They were talking about his splits, first time through, second time through, third time through. And it is really, really strange, his splits. So I went around baseball and I picked a couple other pitchers to see what their splits were. And I wanted to compare a little bit because it is really strange how Dylan Cease has his first, second, and third time through splits. So we'll get into that. Also, things that I've been seeing from Padres fans over the last couple days. I want to address a few of those things because, I understand that people want the Padres to win. I want the Padres to win. I want the Padres to win. Just going to say that again, because sometimes I think people are a little on our case because they don't think we care as much as everybody else out there. That's not true. I mean, we're not digging ditches. I get that. But we have been dedicated to baseball season is what I meant to say. Like for the past 7-8 years. I mean, we watch every single game. We hear every single press conference. We do care, and we do see everything out there as well. So I'm going to get into some of the things that I've seen with fans as of late, and then we will see what we have left at the end. A daily gripe, maybe. But I wanted to start with the fire up at Carlsbad up in Carlsbad in the Costa area, because if you were listening to Gwen and Chris, I live in that area. My dogs are up in that area, but there were evacuations in that area. But the latest from the San Diego Union Tribune is that the evacuations have been lifted. They're still battling the fire. It's 45 acres in eastern Carlsbad. The fire was reported around 2:45 p.m., and they've been fighting it ever since. After 5 p.m., Carlsbad fire official reported that blazes' forward progress had been stopped, and residents were told they can go back around 5:30 p.m., but were also warned to use caution as they may have to evacuate again. The fire apparently is burning in steep terrain, and firefighters battled the blaze on the ground and from the air, including the use of fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters. So that's a good one. That's a really, really good update on this fire because obviously we cannot afford another fire here in San Diego or California for that matter. And it's becoming summer. It's getting hotter. So we're going to see some more of this stuff. But my brother is a firefighter, and we've talked about this before. And San Diego is very, very, very well prepared for a wildfire. And the reason they're well prepared is because of the couple wildfires that we've had in the last 20, 25 years that have devastated San Diego. And there's been a lot of money invested in wildfire fighting. There's been a lot of money invested into airplanes and helicopters. And it's nice to know that there are airplanes and helicopters on the ready for to go fight fires. And it makes me feel a little bit safer here in San Diego that people there's people on standby ready to go anytime a fire starts. And having those planes and helicopters is a big deal to get these fires out, because if you're fighting it from the ground, again, I'm not a firefighter, but I know a couple. Fighting it from the ground is tough. And so when you are able to use the air, whenever you're able to use these special planes and helicopters, it helps put out the fire a lot faster. So again, if you're just tuning in, there was a fire up in the La Costa area, and it, I guess, burned about 45 acres. They're still fighting it, it says, but they allowed people to go back to their homes after they had evacuated them a little bit earlier. So things are going well there. The temporary evacuation point was set up at Stagecoach Park, which is right across the street from La Costa Canyon. Not that that matters, but I had to mention it because, I'm a La Costa Canyon Maverick. They had Chase Budinger on the show last week, La Costa Canyon Maverick. Kevin O'Connell, La Costa Canyon Maverick. That's all I'm thinking. Oh, Mickey Moniak, former first overall pick, La Costa Canyon Maverick. I was talking to my friend, and it was a joking conversation, but I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to make the Mount Rushmore of La Costa Canyon, because there's people that have done a lot more than me, like played professional sports, coach of the year for Kevin O'Connell. It is amazing. It is amazing that my former high school teammate won NFL Coach of the Year. Let's see. Cole says, Skraby, we love you. Thank you very much. I almost said Skraby, but no, that's me. Thank you very much, Cole, for saying that. I appreciate everybody who's in the chat right now. If you want to watch, you can go to YouTube and search 97.3 The Fan. Also, there's a super secret Skrabinator chat that is at youtube.com/at the Skraby Show. You'll be able to find it there. So if you want to watch, you can do it in many different places. X as well, at Matt Skraby, Facebook, 97.3 The Fan, all of that. Ken also says that he loves me. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that. All right, so let's get into this one thing. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, one more thing before I get into this. If you would like to go and subscribe to the 97.3 The Fan YouTube, it would probably benefit you, because we're putting a lot more effort into putting videos up, putting a lot more effort into the YouTube channel for everyone out there. So if you want to see Chris and his two things that the Padres need to happen for them to make it to the playoffs, basically, it's up on YouTube. Search 97.3 The Fan. You'll be able to see it. Just go to the video section, and it should be the first one there. But you are able to go and watch that little segment that Chris put together, which I thought was well thought out, which a lot of the things that Chris says are well thought out. Brandon says he just likes me. Okay, I can take that too. Because as a guy who has a hard time saying I love you, it's different. So, all right. Let's get into what I was perturbed about yesterday, and then we can move on. I am over the Randy Vasquez being removed from the game thing. I'm basically over the entire series, but there was one thing I didn't say yesterday that I should have said and wanted to say, and I just never worked it in. But the eighth inning for the Padres, top of the eighth inning for the Padres, they used Jason Adam, and my question about that is they were down 4-2. Jason Adam has been throwing a lot lately. He's been one of the most worked guys in that bullpen. And so why would you have Jason Adam in that game when you were down rather than resting him further? Now, I understand you want to keep the score where it's at. You wanted to keep the score at 4-2. But when Jason Adam is if you can get him some rest, he needs that rest. And again, I know that they know way more about everything than I do. I'm talking about the team. I'm not questioning that the team has bad knowledge or anything like that. I'm just kind of questioning in my mind as a fan, like, why would you use a guy who's been used a lot lately and seemingly kind of struggling a little bit in the last, I don't know, 2 weeks? He's had some good appearances. He's had some pretty poor appearances, but it's an eighth inning score 4-2. Like, you're not punting on the game, because I understand that you could come back. And again, I understand that you want to keep the score where it's at. But I also really think that in that case, Jason Adam might not be the right guy, because you need him for higher leverage situations, and they did not use him for a higher leverage situation. And I am all for chasing the win, which was what Mike Schilt and co were doing. But I know that Mike Schilt is doing this because he felt like it would help them win the game. And I already kind of know as well that it's the eighth inning and they're down 4-2, that, they've put some rallies together in the ninth inning before. And so it's totally possible that the Padres could have made it through the bottom of the eighth, bottom of the ninth, and tied up the game or even taken the lead. And this isn't a criticism. It's just a question. Like, why use one of your best relievers in a position where he's just not needed? In my mind, I don't think he was needed yesterday. Now, he has a day off today. Who knows when he's going to pitch again next? And one more time, I know that the Padres have way more information than I do, so I don't really want to criticize them because I don't have all of it. But that was just something that stood out to me when I was looking over the box score last night, and I wanted to make sure that I talked about it because I was so angry about the Randy Vasquez thing that I had to bring up something else that perturbed me yesterday. And it's a small thing. It doesn't change the outcome of the game. Does it really even matter that I'm even saying anything? Should I have even said anything? I think it was something I wanted to bring up just because Jason Adam has been struggling lately, and he's been one of the most used guys in the bullpen. So I found that a little strange to see him out there when the team was losing the game yesterday in the eighth inning. I was listening to the whole roundtable, and their conversation about Campusano and what's going on with that is also a very strange thing. So we're going to talk about some trade targets. And again, the trade targets are pretty clear right now. So when we get back, we're going to start talking about the trade targets. We're also going to talk about those Dylan Cease splits. But I have a couple news reports about the Padres and trading for someone. And one of them says that the Padres are going to overpay for one player. And I'll tell you who that player is when I get back here on the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan. Back here on the Skraby Show, I'm Matt Skraby. Thank you for listening to the show. We have a couple more things to talk about tonight before we are done for the day. If you want to watch, go to YouTube, search 97.3 The Fan. You can watch it there. If you would like to watch it elsewhere, you can as well. On X, you can go to @MattSkraby, or you can go to Facebook, 97.3 The Fan. Also, Twitch 97.3 The Fan. So there's a lot going on right now with the Padres, and there are a lot of people that think it is time for the Padres to cut bait with some of their players. Maybe not cut bait, but like trade them away, make some roster improvements. And the trade targets, pretty clear: left fielder, starting pitching, and if you can, another bench piece. And so those are the guys, those are the positions I think the Padres are looking at to get better at. Because quite honestly, the Michael King situation does not feel great to me. It seems like things are going the other way rather than getting better. So I'm not that he is getting worse, but they're still trying to figure out how to what's the best way to go about this and get him better and get him back to what they need him to be doing, which is pitching. And it seems like he's been to specialists. It seems like he's been to a bunch of different doctors. The Padres have tried everything they can to figure this out, but I do think that we're looking at, even though it was sold to us as maybe not a long-term thing, I think we may be looking at a little bit of a long-term thing with Michael King. He's still going to have to ramp back up throwing. He's still going to have to do all of that to get back ready to go. So I hate to say this. I really do, because I did not think this was the possibility when the injury was first presented to us. But I have to think that Michael King is going to be out until the All-Star break, at least the All-Star break, minimum, because of everything that he needs to do to get ready to come back to the team. Like, it's not going to be easy for him to. He had spring training, he had the start to the year, and then everything shut down for him because he has this issue. And I also read something earlier this morning that, and this is not a diagnosis or anything like that, but this is what I read, that specialists may think there's like a bulging disc in his neck. Now, I don't know how far I can go with that, because I am not a doctor whatsoever. And this doctor also hadn't seen Michael King. So he has not examined Michael King, which is why I think a lot of the times people ask me why we don't have like doctors on the air to talk about injuries, and the quick answer is the doctors have not examined the players, so it's all going based off of experience and the evidence that they can see online. And so to me, I can't take something from someone that has not actually seen the player, the person, whatever. So that's why we don't have doctors on Gwen and Chris, at least. But if he's going to be out for an extended period of time, like minimum All-Star break, I think that they have to get some starting pitching. Absolutely have to, because they're it's patchwork. I'll say patchwork because they have Ryan Bergert. Stephen Kolek has been good. And now if Ryan Bergert and Stephen Kolek can do what they've been doing, then this is not going to be as difficult as it seems. But if one of or both of those guys is just not pitching well anymore, then it's going to hurt, because the rotation is now down to 2 or 3 guys now. You have Dylan Cease and Randy Vasquez, and you got Ryan Berger, you got Stephen Kolek. Why am I forgetting the 5th guy right now? Oh, Nick Pivetta. So you have Dylan Cease, Nick Pivetta, and Randy Vasquez as your three guys that are going to be in the rotation for the foreseeable future because of that. I think that starting pitching is something that AJ Preller is really good at going after, but at the same time, there's some other places on this team that need attention that may be a little bit more important than starting pitching. Pitching's pretty darn important. If you don't have good pitching, you're not going to win many games. It's just not easy for you to win many games when your pitchers are getting shelled every time they go out there. But here's the one thing that I saw about overpaying for a player, and we've been talking about this player, but in The Athletic, Jim Bowden, I'm sorry, I always forget, but Jim Bowden, he wrote today that he believes the Padres could overpay for someone like Kyle Stowers. Now, he's in Miami. He's with the Marlins. We've talked about this for weeks now. And he is a good left fielder. And the problem is, for a lot of people, he might be the Marlins' best player. So if he's the Marlins' best player and they're trying for some reason, not for some reason, they should be, but it doesn't seem like they try to win all the time. But would you trade your best player? I mean, because they do this prospect thing all the time. They trade established players for prospects, and then I never hear from those prospects again. So when you're saying something about the Marlins, they can't trade a franchise guy. Do they even have a franchise guy? It doesn't really seem like they have a franchise guy. Maybe Sandy Alcantara, even though he's not pitching well this year. I just think that the Marlins will trade anyone on that team if the price is right. And I also read that they're going to hold on to Sandy Alcantara until the end of the year. And because his value was so low right now, because he's not pitching well after coming back from Tommy John surgery. So they're going to hold him to the end of the year and see what happens in the offseason. But I don't know that that's the best move for them. And if he gets worse, it's even worse for you. But back to Stowers. If Stowers is someone who's on the block, I do think that AJ Preller needs to definitely check in on it. And of course he is, because he's AJ Preller and he has a history of doing business with the Marlins. So it's not like this would be out of thin air or thin air. He's made trades with the Marlins before. He got Tanner Scott, Brian Hoeing last year, Luis Ariz last year. And in the years past, he's also had some Marlins players that he's traded for. And I think that is a good thing, because there's an open line of communication between the two teams. But it depends on how much they value Stowers. Like, I get it. You're giving up your best player, your best hitter right now, and you need to get something back for it. But really, who are you going to get? Who's going to change the fortunes of that team? I don't think that one player in a trade is going to turn the Marlins organization around. And Stowers, he's hitting 272. He has like an OPS around 800 or so. But if you look at some of his StatCast numbers, and these are the numbers that I think provide more information than batting average and OPS and all that stuff. Batting average is a quick indication of, how they're hitting, how many times they get a hit. And OPS is a quick indication of how much they hit for power. But the StatCast numbers really tell me a story of what's actually happening when the ball hits the bat. Stowers' hard hit rate, bat speed, and barrel rate all rank in the 90th percentile or higher, which means hard hit rate means, it's self-explanatory. He's hitting the ball very hard. His bat speed, self-explanatory. He swings the bat very fast. And his barrel rate, meaning how many times does he hit the ball with the barrel, they're ranking in the 90th percentile. I like this player. I think he would be a good fit for the Padres. I know he's a California guy. I know he's a Southern California guy. And he would fit right in left field. The problem is, who are you going to give up for him? Are you willing to give up a player that has some hype around them? And I'm not talking about DeVries or Salas because I don't think those guys are in it. But are you willing to give up on some of your player, or willing to give up some players that you've been seeing rise themselves up through the minor leagues? At a certain point, AJ Preller has been very good at letting players like that go. Stowers he's in the early part of his contract career. So this is also a factor in everything, is that he hasn't even hit arbitration yet. He's got pre-arb coming up next year, and then his first year of arbitration in 2027. So contract control is there. Contract control is a big thing, because then you're not going to be trying to renegotiate a contract every year with a guy, or renegotiate a free agency contract with a guy because you got him as a rental. But if he was on the team, he would be someone that they would be able to pay relatively cheap for a while. And I think that's very attractive to the Padres. It's very attractive to me. I like having long-term control over players because you're able to get the best out of them for a long time for money that they probably should be paid more, or for a salary where they probably should be paid more. And I've also read Sandy Alcantara. We've talked about this yesterday. Padres looking for starting pitching. Do they go after Sandy Alcantara? He's got a 7.14 ERA over 13 starts. And if the Marlins are willing to trade him, what if there was like some sort of Stowers Alcantara package? What would that cost? I have no idea what that would cost. But if the Marlins are holding on to Alcantara to see if they can just get blown away by an offer, or if they're able to, maybe turn him around, maybe package him or turn him around for something else that will get you more of prospect capital, then I could see that happening. Although his contract is one that is not team friendly, because he is owed, he has a team option, Alcantara, in 2027 for $21 million. So maybe that's not one that you want to go after because of the contract. I'm just making sure. Okay, so this year he's making $17.3 million. Next year he's making $17.3 million. Then you have the club option for $21 million in 2027. And then in 2028, he's an unrestricted free agent. Do I want to gamble on Sandy Alcantara turning it around? Do I want to gamble on that and pay him $17.3 million? I don't know that the Padres do. I don't know that the Padres want to spend money where they don't exactly know what they're going to get back for that investment. And you look at Luis Ariz, he's being paid $14 million this year, and that was through arbitration. And $14 million for Luis Ariz is he's making a lot more money than the product that he's putting on the field. Now, do I think that's going to turn around? Yes, I think that's going to turn around. Next year, Luis Ariz is a free agent. So you got to think there is motivation on his side to get this turned around too. And I fully believe that he wants to be better. And we're going to talk about the fans thing in just a second, but I fully believe that he wants to be better. And I fully believe he knows he's going into he's in a contract year. He's going to be a free agent this offseason. He doesn't want to have a bad season that ends up getting him a contract that's not going to be the one that he feels like he deserves. And I don't even know if it's going to be with the Padres. Not for $14 million and a 280 batting average. That's not going to get you $14 million with the Padres. Maybe someone else. Let some other team overpay. But if you're the Padres and you know that you're right up against the luxury tax number, and you know that you're right up against having to pay a penalty, I think you're looking for guys that have contract control and lots of contract control, because that's what's going to help them stay under that luxury tax number. And that's what's going to help them stay away from being penalized for going over that number. And so that's why I think Stowers is a little bit more of a realistic option. And that's just one position. That's just left field. Like, you have to fill maybe 2 rotation spots, maybe 1, definitely, in my mind. You have to fill at least 1 rotation spot. Because Yu Darvish, same thing. I have no idea when Yu Darvish is going to come back. And I know that he's been working his way back and is working himself up to it. But unless they know that he's feeling good enough that he'll be back in 3 weeks or a month or whatever, or even after the All-Star break, then you can have sort of a different plan. But I'm going to operate now like they don't know when he's going to come back. And so that's why you probably have to go and sign or trade for a starting pitcher. Let's see. Why trade prospect for players we don't plan on signing long term? Because that's what a lot of teams do. Because if you can get Stowers for 4 or 5 years in arbitration and pay him less than what he's worth, which is what arbitration really is, kind of, I think that's a win for the Padres. You got to control the players' contract, not themselves, but their contracts. You have to have control. Look at how the free agent market, or look at how the free agents have worked out for the Padres, or at least the guys that they've given contracts to. Joe Musgrove got a contract. He pitched well, and he's out for this year because he's hurt. Yu Darvish got a big contract. He's pitched on and off. He was great during the playoffs, but he's not there. Michael King is in a contract year as well because he will be a free agent next year. He's not there right now. Dylan Cease has been pitching better. He's in a contract year. So you got a lot of guys that are in contract years, and you got a lot of contracts like Xander Bogaerts that seem like they're going to weigh down the franchise for a very, very long time. So you have to navigate around those big contracts while bringing in quality players for the right price. And that I do not envy AJ for. I do not envy AJ Preller whatsoever in that department. But one thing I do know is that AJ is going to make moves. He's going to make moves. Maybe he doesn't make the moves that we want to, but he's going to improve this team. I do not think that they're going to let the trade deadline pass and not improve this team unless miraculously everyone comes back, because that would be great if all of the injured players came back. And they still wouldn't really have a left fielder, but maybe you can, if injured players come back, then you can start focusing on the positions that are in need instead of positions that aren't in need anymore, which, again, I do not envy AJ whatsoever, but I do think he's going to make some moves. All right, let's see here. This is the Skraby Show. I'm Matt Skraby. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at Matt Skraby, MATTSKRAB as in boy. Why? When we get back, a little bit on the Dylan Cease splits. Also, things I see from Padres fans next on 97.3 The Fan. Wow, this show has gone fast. Final segment of the Skraby Show. Thank you to everyone for joining me. We'll get some more of these going here as the season goes along. We'll get some more Skraby shows. But as we all know, Skraby Show season is the off season. So that's when you get lots and lots and lots of Skraby Show. I don't know. This is a side note before we get back into everything. But I don't know if people watch those shows on TV that like $1 million homes or $1 million listing or whatever it is. And so our TV usually has MLB Network on it. But for some reason, since the show started, I just never got up to change the channel. It's been this $1 million homes show, and I've been kind of watching it. And one little thing that I do from time to time that I think is a motivation technique for myself is I go and drive around Ranch Santa Fe. And I go and look at all of the different houses in Rancho Santa Fe because one day I hope to be able to live in one of those houses. Now, will I ever get there? It's gonna be a long uphill battle for that. Rancho Santa Fe is very expensive, but it is a good motivating factor to go and see all those different houses because I'm like, wow, maybe one day I could do that. And it gives me a little motivation. I go home, I start working hard, all that stuff. Maybe I'll drive through Ranch Santa Fe on my way home. That's what I'll probably do. And then I can look at all those houses as well. All right, let's see. On the chat, Abraham saying, why don't you sign players and then develop them? The reason the Padres cannot afford to just develop players right now is because the window is now. They don't have 2, 3, 4 years for these guys. Like teams like the Padres who have invested in the core and put money into the guys that you think you can build around, the Mannies, the Fernandos, the Jackson Merrills, the Joe Musgroves, Yu Darvishes. If you just can't afford to wait for someone 3 or 4 years to be at a point where they're going to contribute heavily on a major league team. So the Padres plan, in my mind, is we have our core. We are trying to win the World Series now. And so we just need to plug and play with some guys. Once you win the World Series, you can go in a different direction if you really want to. And you can start developing prospects and stuff. But there's just not time right now. The window is now. The Padres window is now. Manny's not getting any younger. Xander's not getting any younger. Yu Darvish isn't getting any younger. Jackson Merrill's still very young, so he has a long time to go before that. But I just think that sometimes you have to go all in. And that's what I want to see the Padres doing. I think the Padres are not looking, or some fans of the Padres are not looking at the window that is right now. Everybody always tells me 49ers window is closing. And that's why they need to win now. Okay. All right. Like there's other teams that the window is still open. They're still trying to get to the point where they're a team that's going to compete year in and year out for a World Series. But the Padres are a team right now that cannot waste any years. They cannot waste any years waiting for prospects to prove themselves. That's the other thing. Prospects are prospects. Like if you trade for a bunch of prospects and you have to develop them in the system, you have no idea if they're going to even be good. So you're kind of gambling in that regard too. But I don't think it's a crazy take or anything from Abraham. It's just, I think the Padres want to win now. I know the Padres want to win now because they put a lot of money into this team now. Real quick, I just have to say congratulations to the biggest fan on the chat, Rod. His daughter graduated and I believe is a nurse now. So very cool, Rod. Thank you for sharing with the chat fam and congratulations to your daughter. Nurses are very, very important. And it's very nice to see someone going into that industry, even though it's a very demanding industry. Brock says, I don't even read this chat. Uh-huh. All right. I want to play this from Ben Higgins. This is Jeremiah Estrada yesterday after the game.
Can't walk the first hitter when you come in. Pitches weren't there. You know, not every day is going to be the same. Everyone's got a bad day every now and then. You know, I mean, it's part of life. Got behind the count with Teoscar, couldn't okay my slider, and tried putting a heater up, and of course, you know, left it right down damn middle.
You know what I love about Jeremiah Estrada is that, number one, he is very honest, and that is something that I like about people. Number two, Ben Higgins made this clear in his tweet. He said, in true Trevor Hoffman fashion, Jeremiah Estrada didn't duck any questions after giving up a 3-run home run to Teoscar Hernandez, stand-up guy. He is a stand-up guy. I mean, that was a big deal. He lost the game for them yesterday. I know it wasn't just all on him, but he was the guy who gave up the 3-run home run. And to stand there in front of your locker and face those questions tells me a lot about him, and it makes me like him even more. So that was just a little clip that I saw from Ben Higgins' Twitter, and he, you know, Jeremiah Estrada did not necessarily have to answer those questions, but he did. He sat in front of the cameras, and he knew what was coming, and he absolutely was able to maybe exercise his own demons. Okay. Dylan Cease splits. I heard this, Tony and Jesse talking about this on Tuesday night when Dylan Cease was pitching, which, by the way, he went 7 innings, 11 strikeouts. First time through the order, the batting average is 220 for Dylan Cease. Second time through the order, batting average jumps all the way up into 299. So for some reason, the second time through the order, they're seeing the ball very well. He's not locating something. 299. And then third time through the order, opponents are hitting 186. These are some really, really interesting numbers, because you would never think that a pitcher would go from 220 first time through, 299 second time through, and then third time through 186. That is absolutely bonkers to me. But 299 second time through, it makes sense. It tracks. It tracks because we've kind of we kind of feel that. Like, second time through is when he starts losing command a little bit, and then he somehow finishes the game, or not the game, but he somehow gets out of the inning, or he somehow gets through 6 innings, and it's because he finds it again in the third time through. So I went through to some different pitchers just for reference. And these next two guys, I went and I looked at Dylan Cease's ERA, and I looked at guys that were recognizable right in his ERA range. Jesus Luzardo of the Phillies, he has not been great this year, but his splits, 271 first time through, batting average, 301 second time through, 265 third time through. So he goes, I guess his lowest. So it's kind of following the Dylan Cease trend, but those are not good numbers to have regardless. So we're not really learning much from him. Was my takeaway. Mitch Keller, on the other hand, it seems like, of the Pirates, it seems like this is kind of the Mitch Keller is what I thought most pitchers would be doing with their splits first, second, third time through. First time through, opponents are hitting 211 against him. Second time through, opponents are hitting 277 against him. Third time through, opponents are hitting 297 against him. That seems like a natural progression for me. So Mitch Keller kind of checks out in that way. But third time through, 297. Why aren't they pulling him like they pulled Randy Vasquez? Because, geez. And that's a huge jump between first and second time through. 211 to 277. And then I went to two very good pitchers that are young, and I just was actually just curious to see their splits. Paul Skeens, Pirates. First time through, opponents are hitting 176 against them. Second time through, opponents are hitting even less against them, 145. Third time through, opponents are hitting 209 against him. So those are numbers that I think makes sense. I don't know. I'm going to have to ask Tony, like, I know why first, second, third time through is so important, but because you're able to see it more, there's fatigue on the pitcher. things like that. But I want to know why like a second time through is so much better than the first time through. And then if you're looking at Mackenzie Gore, his splits actually go opposite of what I thought they would. First inning, opponents are hitting 258 off of him. Second inning, opponents are hitting 216 off, or second inning. Second time through, opponents are hitting 216 off of him. Third time through, opponents are hitting 210 off of him. So he gets better each time they go through, which is also kind of strange to me. But I don't really have any other analysis on this except for the fact that Dylan Cease's splits are very weird, and I am now going to be paying attention more and more to the second time through the lineup for Dylan Cease. When he's given up opponents are hitting 299 against him with an 889 OPS. An 889 OPS second time through. OPS first time through, 603. Third time through, 591. It's very strange. I'm gonna have to ask Tony next time I talk to him why that is so crazy to me. I'm running out of time, so you know what I have to do right now. I'm going to put away the things that I saw from the Padres fans because I kind of address that every day anyway. The one thing I will say, the coaches do not need to be fired. Can we stop with that? Can we stop with the fire the hitting coach, fire the manager, fire this guy, fire that guy? Firing people is not the answer. Sometimes you could tell that a hitting coach is not working out. Victor Rodriguez is a good hitting coach. He is not the one actively swinging the bat. Continuity, which is what this team has, and the coaching staff is the reason this team is winning as much as they are. I don't think they have any business being at this point with the roster that they have. If they had a different manager, different coaches, I think this team would be much worse. And this team, when following the game plan that the hitting coach and coaches come up with, is a very good team. Line drives and moving the line. That was the name of the game we saw for the first maybe 40 games of the year. It works. It's not the coach's fault when the team doesn't hit line drives or the team doesn't hit in general. It's just not their fault. I do not want to hear, and I'm going to hear it, any more about firing the hitting coach, firing the manager. That is not the answer. I don't understand why we always look at coaches for problems that players create, because ultimately coaches aren't swinging the bat. Players are. So the players, to me, is where the end all be all. Coaches sometimes do need to go because the players tune them out, but that's not this team. And if I felt like Mike Schilt needed to go, I would tell you, but I do not feel like Mike Schilt needs to go. I feel like Mike Schilt needs to stay because they have a mentality on this team, and good teams win close games, and he's instilled that into them. So please, no more firing people.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
Joshua on the chat. So basically, about the splits. So basically, when they get to the third time around, it's because we're having a great game. For their poor games pitching, they usually get pulled the second time around through the lineup. Yes, that does make sense. That does make sense. Thank you very much for that, Joshua. Appreciate your explanation. All right, Daily Gripe. Happened to me this morning, and I couldn't wait to say it. But when I'm walking the dogs, or even just walking through my neighborhood because I take walks and stuff, go on some runs, it drives me absolutely insane when someone follows me down the path I'm going. There's many paths that these people could take, but I have my example. I have my dogs. We're walking, and then one person with the dog sees me. I go into one area, and they follow me like 10 feet behind. I do not understand. Go somewhere else. I don't need you to follow me 10 feet behind. So you know what I do is I pull over on the trail, and I let them pass me. I don't understand why you need to be 10 feet behind me. There are like literally 4 trails that they could have taken. And it seems like every time they're like, I want to annoy this guy, I'm just going to fall 10 feet behind him. And then Lucky doesn't want to go anywhere because Lucky's all upset that there's a dog behind us. It's just a mess. So come on, people. Stop following me around the neighborhood. All right. That's it for me. I'll be back tomorrow with Gwen and Chris. Ryan Berger on the show. Mike Schill on with Ben and Woods starting at 6 a.m. on 97.3 The Fan. Good night, everybody.
San Diego